What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Vince Wilson Show, where we try to bring the best in politics to you on your phone, or if you're watching this on X, on your social media platform. Hope you enjoyed that new intro music. Still working on a little bit of the graphics. The graphics give a little bit of this like lo-fi vibe, so we're going to change that up a little bit eventually, make it a little bit more energetic. But I hope it got you amped, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring you in here. We're going to get you excited. We're going to get you talking about today's current news. Again, we streamed Wednesday. There's not a whole lot that happened between Wednesday and today. We got some economic news. We got some authoritarian news. And we have some talks with Russia. We're going to talk about that as well. So quite a bit to cover. As you're coming in here and you're trickling in here on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. You'll get notified anytime that we go live. It's super, super important for the algorithm. If you cannot donate, totally cool. It's totally free to hit that like button. It boosts us in the algorithm. Awesome, Spartacus. I'm glad you enjoyed the new intro. It's pretty cool. A buddy of mine did it. Super awesome. All right, let's dive into the news, because that's what you guys are here for. Let's get into it. So, first and foremost, we have news about DC. What has been going on in DC right now has been an absolute atrocity. I have a theory that we will get to at the end of this segment to talk about what I believe is happening with Donald Trump bringing in the National Guard and potentially including the military. We had Caroline Leavitt just the other day, yesterday, say Democrats were spreading the narrative that we don't need the National Guard in D.C. because crime has gone down around 30%. This is Earhart, I'm sorry. But then we heard those numbers might be inaccurate. Can you clear that up? Are those numbers correct? Caroline Leavitt says those numbers are absolutely correct. We're proud of those efforts. They're proud that they brought D.C. crime down, yet they continue to use crime as a means to put the military on our streets. Make that make sense. And then we saw that there was actually checkpoints that were being put in place at a busy intersection in D.C. And we had Republican representatives, namely James Comer, going on Newsmax, a very, very right-wing leaning news agency, and decided to go out and say, we're going to support doing this in other cities. Mind you, James Comer is a sitting member of Congress, y'all. It's important to note this, because in order for Donald Trump to extend this Home Rules Act, he needs congressional approval. And Republicans seem to be right there giving him that approval. He said, we spent a lot on our military. Our military has been in many countries around the world for the past 2 decades, walking the streets, trying to reduce crime. We need to focus on the big cities in America now. And that's what the president is doing. What James Comer is sitting here saying is that he wants to take the military that is meant to go overseas, all the defense budget, and use it for domestic affairs. Let that sink in. That's not a very Republican talking point. It's not. Republicans are anti-big government, but they love their military. So let's go down this rabbit hole of what I believe is actually happening with Donald Trump and this DC plan. There's a bigger plan here that nobody is talking about that I want to cover tonight. And I think it's vitally, vitally important that we talk about this. There's a lot of people that are asking themselves, why is Donald Trump sending the military into our streets? Why is he doing this? It doesn't make a lot of sense. The crime is down. What is he trying to achieve with this? Let's go down this rabbit hole. James Comer also said on Fox or Newsmax, forgive the Freudian slip because they're very similar, I think this is an experiment that that's probably needed in a lot of the Democrat-run cities in America. The problem with this equation is it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would you put these in Democrat-run cities when there are plenty of other Republican states that they're not going after? Namely, they're going after Baltimore, Chicago. They're going after D.C., New York. What do these all have in common? Well, we saw that after Donald Trump brought the military into D.C., the D.C. police, and I believe the mayor, put out an executive order rescinding their sanctuary city policies. What they said on this headline from NBC News says DC police to increase cooperation with ICE as part of Trump's crackdown, and immigrants who have not been detained or charged with a crime can now be reported to ICE for possible arrest and deportation. For any of you who have subscribed to the stream, you may have seen some of these pop up in my recent shorts. You probably know where I'm going with this. What a sanctuary city policy is not somewhere where they can harbor fugitives and are immune from prosecution. That is not how this works. The sanctuary city policy says, we are not going to do your job for you. You are the federal government. You have all the resources to do what you need to do. If you want to come in and get them, but we're not going to help you find them. That is what a sanctuary city policy is. And Donald Trump has put in place in DC specifically a sanctuary city, and now has pressured the government in DC to rescind the sanctuary city policy. And if this isn't enough, we can go down some of the evidence to prove this. Namely, border czar Tom Homan said on Fox News on Wednesday night, just this week, that DC under federal control is not gonna be a sanctuary city. We're working with the police hand in hand. When we encounter a criminal illegal alien, they're going to be turned over to ICE, and that's the way it should be, he said. I mean, I'm not saying every illegal and alien in DC is a criminal, but many are. So these are what people we're going to focus on. Illegal, alien, criminal safety threats in DC. What this Donald Trump administration is doing is they're putting in place the National Guard in particular areas. They're using the guise of criminality and Tom Homan doing what he does best to kind of twist what a criminal is. That criminal element they're going for, guys, is code word for undocumented migrants. What Donald Trump is hoping to do is expand this. You can see here, at the press conference that happened, I believe, earlier this week, a reporter asked, the president said this is a model federalizing the National Guard that could be used in other cities like Chicago, LA, Baltimore. What sort of authority would he have to deploy forces like that? Caroline Levitt said the president is speaking about what he would like to see take place in other cities around the country. Now, I want you to pay attention to those three cities. What do those three cities have in common? Why would Trump want to put them into those cities? If you guessed sanctuary city policies, you would be correct. Chicago, LA, and Baltimore all have sanctuary city policies in place. Now, if that's not enough, we got more for you. We can see here a federal judge dismissed the Trump administration's lawsuit against Chicago. Just another example of what they're trying to do. We can also see here, if that's not enough, the DOJ just sent a demand letter. This was literally just yesterday to sanctuary cities, counties, and 12 states plus DC, warning them to eradicate sanctuary policies. Let's think back to how Donald Trump handles places that aren't listening to him. He files lawsuits. He puts military on their streets. This is a pressure campaign from the Trump administration to get cities to rescind sanctuary city policies. And this, to me, I think falls right in line with what they are doing, what their main objective is. I want you to take a listen to what Stephen Miller said at CPAC last year, guys. Listen to what he is saying in here. I want you guys to follow this. This was from last year. He lays out the plan in black and white for you guys.
Sometimes the immigration issue is extremely simple. The policies involved in fixing it are very complicated. The simple part is seal the border, deport all the illegals.
They're working on that right now through mass deportations.
Now, that's the short answer, right? You get in, you have two policy objectives that you proceed with utter determination on. Seal the border, no illegals in, everyone here goes out. That's very straightforward. In terms of the policy sets to accomplish this, as President Trump showed in his first term, it's a series of interlocking domestic and foreign policies to accomplish this goal. In no particular order, to rattle off a few fast, you have your Safe Third agreements, you have Remain in Mexico.
Safeguard agreements basically mean if there is a country that you are going in between, that you should stay there. I don't think we have quite seen that just yet, but they have been deporting other undocumented immigrants, to other countries that are not of their own home country.
Finish the wall. You have robust prosecutions of illegal aliens. You do
robust prosecution of illegal aliens is how he defines it. We are seeing that right now, although any of the undocumented migrants that go to court are going to be swept up in this ICE raid.
Interior repatriation flights to Mexico.
Interior reparation flights to Mexico, which they are doing. They're sending them back to Mexico, to other countries like Africa, continents like Africa. We're seeing that play out right now.
Back to the north of Mexico. It's very important. You re-implement Title 42.
Title 42, I believe, wasn't that the Remain in Mexico policy? I believe it was Title 42, I think, was the colloquial Muslim. I have to look at that, but that one has been re-implemented.
Several muscular 212Fs. That's the travel ban authority.
There's the travel ban, which they have implemented. There's a check. This is exactly what they're going down.
We did a few of those in the Trump administration. You would bring those back and add new ones on top of that. You would establish a large-scale staging ground.
Large-scale staging ground. Sounds kind of like Alligator Alcatraz, right? I think they just made a new one in Florida called Deportation Depot or something like that.
For removal flights. So you grab illegal immigrants and then you move them to the staging grounds, and that's where the planes are waiting for federal law enforcement to then move those illegals home. You deputize the National Guard to carry out immigration enforcement.
Did you just hear that? This is the only thing that's not been checked off. Deputize the National Guard. Now, I want us to go back. Let's go back to what we saw earlier. A group of law enforcement officers across several agencies turned a busy intersection in a D.C. neighborhood into a police checkpoint as part of Trump's directive to crack down on crime in the nation's capital. What do you typically need when you go through a checkpoint? An ID. Something, right? They want to check you out. But what happens when you're an undocumented migrant and now there's no sanctuary city policy in place and you are at the behest of Donald Trump? That's right. You get picked up and you get deported. There are going to be, what I predict is going to happen based on what Stephen Miller has said and what we are seeing play out right now in D.C., is Donald Trump is trying to put in place the National Guard in several cities that are called sanctuary cities to pressure them to remove sanctuary city policies, right? He wants to put them there. He wants to sue them, right? He wants to remove federal funding from them. And then he's going to, once they get comfortable, they go, okay, sorry, we surrender. We'll let you kind of put the National Guard on our streets. They'll implement checkpoints. And now they're going to run through the streets trying to find undocumented migrants. That is the prediction of what I am going to believe is happening right now and what makes the most sense with what is happening in D.C. at this moment. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense why they're using crime as a precursor to why they are going into D.C. streets. Their own administration is saying that crime is down. So the only logical explanation for this is that this is because Donald Trump wants them to remove sanctuary city policies and allow the National Guard to go through there looking for undocumented migrants. All right, so there's the segment. Tron, that was one damn good segment. You better edit, ship it, clip it, and send it out today. All right, guys, let's read through chat. The sanctuary cities, the sanctuary cities say they aren't sanctuary cities. No, Jason, the problem is these sanctuary city policies are getting a bad rep for something that they factually are not. The idea is that the sanctuary cities are something that they do not. The idea is that these sanctuary cities are just harboring these fugitives. That's not what they're doing. And to be clear, I don't think undocumented migrants are fugitives. Okay. But that's the claim being made by the right. The fact is the sanctuary city is just a means of saying we are not going to cooperate with federal law enforcement. It does not mean we're not going to hand over any of the undocumented migrants. Come and get them, but we're not going to help you out with that. I think that's fair. I think if you're a big proponent of states' rights, you should absolutely be in favor of sanctuary city policies. It's all setting up control of Democratic districts to ring in the middle. Dan, I think there's an element of that as well. I think there's a little bit of an intimidation factor on that end as well. But I think the predominant reason here is more so to do with immigration. I think that's primarily what's going on. Y'all have got to chill out on this language. I have to time y'all out for a little bit. So they're breaking the laws of the country. Okay, to be very clear, you don't even know what the punishment is for breaking the laws. Okay, and what you're referring to is, I believe it's section 1325 or something along those lines. Basically, unauthorized crossing of the border. Yeah, that's like a misdemeanor offense that's only punishable by up to 6 months in jail or a fine. It is not an automatic grant of deportation. That is through a deportation hearing. Sanctuary state equals subverting federal laws. It's funny because I remember when Greg Abbott subverted federal policy by putting the barbed wire at the border. And you guys were all for that. Now y'all love big daddy government. Bro, we don't want them here illegally. Get it through your head. It doesn't matter how you try to play. That's okay. You can continue your bigotry and everything else like that. That's totally okay if that's what you want to do. Yeah. Wow. Grateful commentary, Pat. MAGA loves paying more taxes for nonsense. Poor man. Yeah, Dan, we'll get to it later. But Donald Trump went to Alaska. Yeah, I'll get to that point in a minute. And wasted taxpayer dollars. It literally was a nothing burger. Nothing that couldn't have happened over the phone. And we can break down all the different costs. There was like the air show he did where he flew a B-2 bomber overhead. Yeah, that. We never asked them to come, go the F home. You see, here's the problem with this, okay? Most of these, and we'll get to the effects that we're starting to see from these undocumented migrants, by the way, all of y'all's terrible policies of wanting to deport these migrants who are hardworking migrants who have mostly not contributed to any kind of crime. In fact, if you look, even by Fox News' own numbers and most conservative estimates, if you were to even say 400,000, most of you guys would say it's in the tens of millions of people that have crossed our borders. 400,000, though, are those who are criminals that have come into this country. Even if we were to use that number, it's literally a fraction of a percent. A fraction of a percent. But you guys don't care about that. You love to use tragedy as a means to further your political agenda. That is what the MAGA agenda is. The Mexicans are sick of Americans fleeing to Mexico and causing their food and housing costs to skyrocket. Americans are fleeing to Mexico. I would love to see some statistics on that. You might be right, but I've not seen anything to suggest that. MAGA derangement is real. It absolutely is. There's a lot of people on the right that suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. It's pretty crazy. All right, let's move on to the next topic here, guys. We got quite a bit to cover. We're going to cover some of the DC stuff. Oh, I didn't cover all the DC stuff, so we're going to kind of pick up this as breadcrumbs. We also saw some of the pictures coming out where these people are just kind of standing around waiting to be picked up, and you see all these military vehicles passing through. We also saw this happen that I thought was pretty wild. There was a gentleman here in the pink shirt that ended up throwing a Subway sandwich at a federal law enforcement officer, and he faced federal charges, including a felony. And we can see here Janine Pirro, the new U.S. attorney for D.C., saying, let me be clear. If you lay a hand on a law enforcement officer, be certain that we will come after you with the full weight of the law. Our officers have a job to do, and they should not be abused in the process. This alleged assault is no joke. It's a serious crime, and those who think otherwise will learn just how gravely mistaken they are. But you see, there's one problem with this. Here's the pictures from J6. Yeah. Remember all those people that Donald Trump pardoned? Yeah. They love to hold each other accountable, but not these guys. No, those guys get a pass. And you can see here some of the Tim Burchett saying, imagine assaulting an officer and thinking there will be no consequences. Can't make this stuff up. So let's go ahead and get into the news here, a little bit more of the economic news. We're seeing producer prices surge 0.9% in July, the fastest monthly jump since June 2022, pushing annual wholesale inflation to 3.3%. Wholesale inflation affects a lot of things, by the way, including vegetables, which we'll see in a second. It's also where a lot of people, higher costs for manufacturers means Americans should expect more price hikes. These are wholesale prices that are going to be given to these distributors, and these distributors buy for, usually cheaper than they would if they were to do it individually. So higher prices on the supply chain always means higher prices to the American consumer. And you can see here Marita Bartiromo breaks news about new data showing a spike in the producer price level inflation as though she's talking about some horrible national tragedy. Fox News is having a really rough day trying to go over some of this economic news because it's been nothing but terrible. And then we see Peter Navarro, I believe he's the chief economist or something like that, another for the White House. Are tariff prices price hikes or tax cuts? I say they're tax cuts. I mean, and then Eisen said, many economists would say they're tax hikes because ultimately the consumer will pay for some of those increased prices. And Navarro, this is propaganda at its finest, y'all. This is propaganda at its finest. Navarro says most economists just don't agree with us. Who has credibility here? A vast majority of economists agree this is going to raise consumer prices. That is just the nature of how tariffs work. It's a tax hike. You, the American consumer, are paying more money. Hey guys, listen, we got 265 people in here. If you could do me a huge favor, hit the like, subscribe, notification bell. That would be absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Then we see that wholesale vegetable prices rose 38% in July, the biggest jump on record. Look at this here, y'all. This is Axios. Hold on. You can see, I'm going to use this chart here just because that's all I want. You can see that. Look at this. I believe this is 2022. We saw a pretty big spike, but look at this. We're up to 38%. And a lot of what this has to do with, by the way, is guess what? Undocumented migrants are not there to, guess what? Get these things. So you're deporting them and their labor. Well, guess what? They're going to have to pay more for labor. Thus, the price goes up. We're also seeing new polling finding 60% of consumers expect unemployment to worsen in the year ahead. By the way, we have already seen, for example, manufacturing jobs decline rapidly with the recent jobs reports. And this is hilarious to me. Donald Trump's own numbers prove exactly what I am saying. Donald Trump's own numbers prove exactly what I am saying. This was posted literally just today at 10 o'clock this morning, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. Blue collar wage boom. And it's showing real blue collar wages and the changes and real collar wage growth. And what you can see is Trump, this is the problem. He's not waiting until the numbers are final. Okay. Notice this is 1.4%. Okay. I want you to keep an eye on this one. This is from August of this year. This is just today. Okay. Here's what it showed 2 months ago. Real blue collar wage growth. This is the same thing, just a different title. 1.7%. I don't know if you guys can see it on there. It might be a little bit small. So in other words, in June, the real blue collar wage growth that they were so excited about was 1.7%. But today it's 1.4%. Their own graphic that they're using shows that real blue collar wage growths are declining. Isn't that crazy? They're admitting that blue collar wage growth, however they want to characterize this, which by the way, they kind of say it in here, but they exclude it. It says for production and non-supervisory workers. So this doesn't really even include most of your service workers, right? Your electricians and all of those other natures. And we're also seeing that coffee prices have jumped to the highest price in 2 months. The highest price. So if you love your daily routine of, Starbucks coffee, that's probably going to get a little bit more expensive as well. Yeah, that's probably going to get a little bit more expensive. So what we're seeing right now with the economic news coming out is it's absolutely disastrous for MAGA. Job numbers are continuously getting revised downward. We're seeing prices increase, people losing their jobs, wages declining because people are losing their jobs. So yeah, it's a pretty bad disaster that we have going on right now. All right, there's enough for that segment. Guys, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you have not already. It's free to do, and I greatly appreciate it. Dr. LL, your tears are delicious. Let's see. Do you blame the person who punched the person first, or do you blame the punch person for punching back? What do you mean by that, Miley? You have to elaborate on that. Democrats lost in the Civil War trying to keep slavery. While Republicans killed Democrats won the Civil War and freed the slaves. Okay, so there's a whole host of that, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, so I'll move on. But Trump brought out new data that shows we're the hottest country ever. Fake news, sad. Thank you for your attention span. Good one, Par. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing too, right? Trump is continuously trying to bring out this data to try to say, guys, it's good, it's good. And let's be very clear that even if we look at this, even if we were to do the most generous of saying 1.4, okay, it's still not the greatest. And even this is a little bit skewed. Okay, right? Because they're looking at production and non-supervisory roles. Supervisors still work in the plants, right? And depends on how you characterize it. There's a lot of issues with this. But even then, 1.4% is not a whole lot. So this is skewed really heavily. Let's go ahead here. Gas is down in Sacramento, California. So is food. Food is not all down. As a matter of fact, like I said, I already pointed to the fact that wholesale food prices are going up. This is undeniable. And like I said, I can point to coffee prices, for example, right here. Coffee prices reached their peak. And you're probably wondering, well, what is this? This is the, because it's a commodity, it's traded on this, a commodity market. The hidden cost of illegals and the government benefits we spend on them, occupying housing that Americans need. No, see, the problem is I think if you look at, well, first of all, undocumented migrants, depending on where they're coming from, typically, even overseas in Asian countries, they believe in multi-generational households. So they'll put multiple people into one household. And I believe that even right now, housing prices are still going up because of the fact that you need new houses, at least. New houses take lumber, nails, things of that nature that we all get from other countries. Specifically, we get some of the wood that we use to construct houses from Canada, which we put tariffs on. Talks did not collapse. They absolutely collapsed. Canada finally topped that off. I'd have to look at that. I don't know about that, Ryan. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So this is now where we're going to get into the Russian-U.S. talks where they deteriorated. You're suffering from Trump arrangements, and the border is secure. Finally, after 4 years of our president, first of all, the border is not fully secure. It's not closed off. There were still about 9,000 encounters last month, or a couple months ago at least. I think it was when I checked in June. So yeah, it's not down. The zero number that Donald Trump keeps touting, that you MAGA love to tout, yeah, that zero number is actually from ICE releases, meaning ICE captures them and they don't release them. Love how MAGA reversed the catchphrases and acronyms, pathetic mags. Oh yeah, it's low hanging fruit, Dan. They don't have any other kind of talking points. They wait for their dear leader to give them the talking points. Encountered, not released, moron. Well, yeah, encountered. That's kind of how that works. That's the statistics that your own guy used. Encountered means, guess what? They crossed the border and they were encountered. That's not counting how many were not encountered and got through. So keep that in place. More illegals flying illegally than legally than they don't leave dum-dums. Yeah, that too, Ryan, right? They end up coming over here via overstayed visas and things of that nature. But even then, my immigration policy is fine. You want to take out the criminals, the convicted criminals, by all means. I would rather them serve their sentence here in the United States and then be deported. That's just my opinion, because then we can know that they're going to actually get justice for their crimes. And then those who are working or paying their taxes, which all of this data is available, you pay your taxes, you go to work, you've not committed any meaningful violent crime. A traffic ticket is not in my opinion, a deportable offense. Okay. Depends on the traffic infraction, right? If it's a DUI or something like that, that's different. Those people that are working hard should be able to stay in the United States. Simple as that.
United States of America and the President of the Russian Federation.
Oh, okay. That was weird. All right. So let's continue on here. I got a lot of tabs open. Let's go ahead and close these out. Almost there. All right. You would rather waste our tax money to just to imprison them before sending them home. You have two brains. Okay, let's play this game. Donald Trump himself has made the claims that they are sending their insane asylums and dropping them off at our border. If that is the case, implying in essence that anytime a country receives an undocumented migrant and is then put into their custody, that they are then dropping them off at our border, why would you want them to go to that country that is just going to drop them off at the border anyways? That doesn't make any logical sense. And furthermore, to be clear, there has been no funding for the border. I think actually they might have gotten a little bit of funding, but it was more for ICE than it was anything. They didn't really actually get anything for the border and in that big, beautiful bill. So again, there's the border as it stands is essentially the same as it was been under Biden. There's been no meaningful immigration policy. So why would you send them to a country that they're just going to come right back in? Parr said, I have yet to be explained to me two things. Why is MAGA, first of all, by the way, thank you, Dwayne, for subscribing. I have yet to be explained to me two things. Why is MAGA suddenly okay with high prices? And two, why are they suddenly not concerned with Epstein? Yeah, they're not concerned about it anymore, right? They've kind of like shoot it. The other question you should probably add in there too, Parr, is why are they now all of a sudden for big government? Oh, that's right, because it's Donald Trump. That's why they're for big government. There isn't a country in the world that allows 1 million illegal immigrants in the country. You're actually incorrect. Most people would point to the European Union, for example. Right now, that's not a country per se. That's an entire continent. The European Union, right, is a whole joint of different countries. But I think England was even pointed to as some that saw a bunch of people coming. I don't know if it was millions. I'd have to look at those stats. But again, the idea is too, by the way, that you're insinuating that these laws are different in these countries. I've looked at a few of these different laws. It's pretty much similar to the United States, right? 6 months in jail, maybe a fine if you come in the country. And then there's a separate deportation hearing. And that deportation hearing looks at a multitude of factors, as it properly should, as to whether or not you should be able to remain for an asylum case or whatever that case may be. Par. Yeah, what happened to states' rights? Thank you for your attention to the matter. Exactly. France, Greece. Exactly, Dwayne. Come on, tell us what Democrats did for us the past 4 years. Oh, sure. So we had the Infrastructure Act, we had the CHIPS Act. The CHIPS Act, by the way, is one of the biggest investments that we can think of in current time, where Joe Biden incentivized numerous chip manufacturers, specifically TSMC, to come to the United States and build their chip manufacturing plants here. Thus, in turn, what it did was it brought in NVIDIA. It brought in the other AI chip manufacturer I can't think of off the top of my head right now. Brought those two in, because they wanted to be closer to the supply chain of TSMC. So yeah, that did a very good job. The Infrastructure Act, I'd have to look at it. I believe it worked on broadband, bringing more broadband to the American people. And I want to make this very clear as well. Most people forget this, that we were under Donald Trump's tax plan, right? We were under Donald Trump's tax plan all the way through Joe Biden's administration. Just an FYI on that. Just an FYI. So yeah. Okay. Let's get into the Russian news before we get too far off of it. And we got some videos to watch and stuff. So Putin, speaking ahead of his trip to Alaska, which again, we'll get to that because Donald Trump seems to have forgotten in his old age. All of you MAGA supporters who criticize Joe Biden for his old age and his cognitive decline. Yeah, just wait, it's coming. Putin, speaking ahead of his trip to Alaska, appeals to Trump's desire for a Nobel. He says the U.S. is making energetic and sincere efforts to end the conflict and dangles long-term conditions for peace if we reach agreements on strategic offensive arms control. And then we saw, and this is kind of a spoiler alert, there was no deal reached. Then we saw Fox News coming out and saying what was really stunning to me as someone who has been in a lot of these press conferences, a few things very unusual. You had Putin come out and address the press first. We are on U.S. soil here. And you might be wondering, well, could this be because of Donald Trump, who made the mistake not once, but twice, I think 3 times almost. And again says, I'm out here and I go back to the United States as if he is not in the United States, in Alaska. I want to keep people memories fresh. Alaska at one point used to be part of Russia. I think Donald Trump thinks he's in Russia. He's in Alaska, but Donald Trump thinks he's in Russia. And then we saw, this will get to this in a minute. So what we're seeing is Donald Trump's cognitive decline is crazy, and he is not really a good negotiator in chief. We saw there was a B-2 flyover when he was greeting Putin. He rolled out the red carpet for Putin. All of this taxpayer funding, all for nothing. There was no deal reached. There was not even, quite frankly, an agreement, and Zelensky wasn't even at that table to talk. There was only about 3 advisors that were allowed in the room to speak amongst these negotiations, and we got nothing out of it. And quite frankly, it shouldn't have been something that even happened in the first place. This is something that should have happened between Trump, Putin, and Zelensky. Zelensky absolutely has every single right to be at the table right there. And there should be a red carpet, to be very clear, given to Zelensky and not a damn red carpet given to Russia. Let's be very clear on that. This guy is terrified of Putin. Well, I would say someone who is an invader is pretty terrifying. That's just me. An invader is pretty terrifying. But maybe that's just me. Okay, why did Biden not change taxes? Duh. I wish you would share the truth. Hey, buddy, you're reaching Alaska, Russia. I'm not sure what we're talking about. TDS 3.0, the only TDS coming out is from MAGA, and that is the truth. Trump has ended 11 world conflicts in the last 200 days. That's totally incorrect. Matter of fact, if you look at the Azerbaijan and Armenian conflict, that was not even really an end to the conflict. It was an agreement to come to the table for an end agreement. And I think there was that one with the Indian conflict. Yeah, that was already kind of mostly settled. It had nothing to really do with Donald Trump. But what world leaders have understood, and most understand this, which is why Putin is doing the same thing, is they understand that in order to get into Trump's good graces, they have to try to appeal to him. So that's why you've seen a lot of these Nobel Peace Prizes that have come out. And you should see the list. It's actually quite hysterical because they want to get into the good graces with Donald Trump. Just like Donald Trump is trying to do a strategy with them, they are absolutely playing into Donald Trump's playbook. I guess you thought Biden was sharp and lucid. First of all, again, if welcome to the stream for anybody who's just now tuning in. For anyone unaware, I voted, unfortunately, for Donald Trump in 2020, and this was the first election that I had ever voted for a Democrat. I ended up voting for Kamala Harris and Colin Allred. That is what I voted for, and I am proud of that vote, but I wish I could take back my 2020 vote because it led to this, unfortunately, and I wish I did. All right, let me go ahead. I got to pull this up real quick. All right. Hey guys, we got 26 likes. Let's get to 100 likes, man. We got 254 people in here. The least you could do is drop a like. Okay. It's free. Appreciate every one of you guys. All right. Prove what, Bait? What do you want me to prove? Led to what? Talks? I don't know what you're talking about, Crunchy Jones. If anyone can end a war, it's President Trump. Absolutely not. Why was Ukrainian Burisma selling enough North American uranium to Putin to create? Oh, shoot. Where'd it go? Over 2,000 high yield nuclear. Well, again, I'm not privy to a lot of that Ukrainian Burisma scandal, so I won't really comment too much on it because I don't know too much about that. Still waiting for accomplishments of Dems. The CHIPS Act was a failure. Wrong. Donald Trump touts the CHIPS Act and a lot of his executive orders. He says he wants to reframe the CHIPS Act, but he definitely contributes he kind of in a roundabout way attributes the CHIPS Act to some of the investments he's getting. You just said led to this. You'd have to. So I said what? Talks? Oh, well, so first of all, the talks, if you're talking about the Russian talks were Putin loving Trump. Putin has loved Trump for quite a while, namely because Putin knows that he can get whatever he wants out of Trump. This is a negotiation that happened was not for Donald Trump or for Ukraine. It was for Putin. And from my understanding from, I think, some of the reports that were coming out about these talks really was just Putin trying to demand a lot of stuff. And that's why it seems like this administration was kind of frustrated by that. Paul, don't be so hard on yourself. Where's Paul? Beta. Yeah, the only betas are MAGA. Calling Trump your daddy. That's a real alpha male move there, huh? All right. So then we got some random little bit of news coming out here. In 1 second. Okay. So then we have, I think this guy's a Congress member, Brewster. The schools have to start disciplining kids. They took the paddle out of the school and everything collapsed. We have to get the paddle back. I mean, here's the thing. Now they want to start bringing back when Donald Trump said he wanted to make America great again. And we kept asking him, how far back do you want to make America great? Right? Great. What period of time? I think we're becoming abundantly clear and we keep moving that time frame back. A lot of them said the 80s. I don't know about all that. I'm starting to think more like the 60s, a time when there was segregation, something like that. So I think that's something we're starting to see. We also saw Gavin Newsom respond to Donald Trump's attempt to gerrymander Texas. Now, I want you guys to remember what I told you about. Remember that intimidation factor I told you about earlier on that last story about why ICE is in D.C.? This is not about crime. This is about intimidation. You can see here that Border Patrol showed up at the conference that Gavin Newsom was having to intimidate Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom, during that speech, said that he was asking voters for their consent to do midterm redistricting. It's important to note the difference here. What Gavin Newsom is asking for here is it's very clear. He's asking the voters, not unilaterally deciding that they're going to do redistricting. He said the voters will decide. Stark difference to Texas. And further, the redistricting would be given to an independent council to then look at redistricting. Let's be very clear. Gavin Newsom is not asking to gerrymander California, but he knows that by doing redistricting, by doing it the proper way, it would in turn lead to Republican seats being lost. So there's a vast difference between what's happening in Texas and what's happening in California. And you can see here that when Newsom was asked about the ICE actions outside his presser, he said, it's pretty sick and pathetic. It's everything you know about Donald Trump's America, about the authoritarian tendencies of the president. Wake up, America. You will not have a country if he rigs this election. You will have a president who will be running for a third term, mark my word. And Gavin Newsom is 100% correct, because we have seen where there have been sitting representatives put forth an amendment to allow Donald Trump to run for a third term. We've also seen Donald Trump try to intimidate all of his political opponents. We also saw, thankfully, because of the Democrats not being in the state, the Texas House failed to reach a quorum to pass the redistricting maps, as Democrats are still away from Texas. What that means now is that, as you can see, Greg Abbott is forced to call a second session or drop his plans entirely. This is a huge win for Democrats. And it's funny to me to watch some of the Republicans cry about this, namely Charlie Kirk. You know, good old fashioned Charlie Kirk, huh? Charlie Kirk responding to Gavin Newsom's calls to redistrict, not gerrymander, redistrict. He goes, Gavin Newsom will try to call a special session to overturn the will of the voters. I thought it was all about democracy. It's not democracy. It's oligarchy, because Gavin Newsom wants to redistrict California. I want you to remember this. But guess what? Here's Charlie Kirk back in July 30th saying, this is a win. Great job, Texas. Let's go back and let's play it in real time. Here's Kirk saying Gavin Newsom will try to call a special session to overturn the will of the voters. I thought it was about democracy. It's not democracy. It's oligarchy. But yet he cheered on when Texas said, hey, we're going to gerrymander. They have no consistent principles. Their principles sway with the wind. There is no principles. And remember, I told you guys when we talk about going back to a certain time and age, we can see here Senator Haggerty on his legal rationale for not counting undocumented migrants, because this is a big issue that Republicans are arguing on why Texas should be redrawn, is because of the undocumented migrants crisis. He says that there's a constitutional interpretation, I think, that has been misapplied that goes back to slavery days and what portion of a person is going to be counted. Wait a minute. Let's play that back. Are you saying then that we should go back to the days of slavery? Does that mean then that we're not going to count African Americans? Remember, when they say they want to make America great again, it sounds like they want to go right back to the days of slavery. So while we're seeing this redistricting map play out in real time, it is an absolute travesty to watch what is happening in real time. Donald Trump is sending the military onto our streets to intimidate local officials to try to do his policies. We already saw this, by the way. This played out in real time with Eric Adams. Remember that? Remember that whole scandal? People forget about that. And now we're seeing it where they want to redraw the maps. And when Democrats do it, they're not okay with it. But the moment Trump does it, they love it. All right, let's get to chat. You are a worthless liar. Please get the door on your... Oh, well, okay. Here, JC, if you're so upset, my guy, I mean, you could just tell me. Let's keep going down here. My chat's a little caught up. You're incorrect, Barry. Host is a dipshit. Man, MAGA. Wow. MAGA, MAGA games. That's such a great analogy. It's really changed my opinion. Great job. I can prove it, Dan. If you have spent more than 10 seconds listening to this guy and you take him anything other than you're also, okay, here, you know what? If you don't like the channel, you can go by. You can come back another time. I'm a Hoosier. We've got some crazy whites out here. I'll type this one out. I love how my speech to text on my phone isn't as coherent as ChatGPT's to text. Okay, Dylan. Well, that's interesting. Illegals are new slaves of the 1%. No, they're not. And as a matter of fact, the solution to that wouldn't be to deport them. It'd be to make them just like we did with slaves. I say to make them a citizen, make them beholden so that these employers are forced to give them livable wages. I think that's a great way to cure this, not deport them, if that's your concern. But your concern is not that they are slaves, which again, I think there's dramatic difference in that connotation. Your issue is that they are brown and they're here in the United States. That's what your argument is. We live in a two-party government. It was over before we even realized. Dylan, the problem is that I think the two-party system has its flaws and it has its ups and downs, right? But again, it's not stopping anybody from voting third party. They can vote third party if they wanted to. But most people just want to fall into these two buckets, and there's nothing wrong with that either, in my opinion. Absurd assertion. What's the absurd assertion, Justice? Indentured servitude would be more correct. J Bro, again, the problem is even if you were to load this question, or if you were to emotionally load that question, then I would beg the question back to you and say, why not make them citizens where they are then able to be beholden to federal minimum wage laws, if not state, and including state minimum wage laws? But you don't want that. That's the problem. See, this is how you debunk these guys, okay? While you are watching this play out, okay? If you're watching this and you're a left-leaning person, think about how to engage in these people. Don't engage. A lot of people get trapped in trying to engage and debunk these arguments, right? They get caught up in understanding and hearing, oh, well, they said they're in indentured servitude, or they hear, oh, these people are slaves. And they try to argue on the merits of that argument of saying, well, they're a slave. And they try to say, well, no, they're not this because of that. No, that's not what you need to argue on. The solution to that, if that were true, it's kind of how you engage it sometimes. If that were true, then wouldn't you want them to be a citizen? Because you would agree with me that most of those people probably go about their 9 to 5. They pay their taxes. They're very likely not criminals, right? So why not make them a citizen, right? Then we could solve that problem right there. But you don't want to do that. 90% of them are on welfare. I'd love for you to provide a fact on that, Michelle. Justice Mine, how does it feel being lied to for 5 years about FC? Yeah, true, Par. No, my issue with illegals is they unalived my husband and left me with 5 children aged 10. Listen, Under, as much as I sympathize with you, okay? And I understand yours is very, very, very personal. And I'm sorry you've had to go through that. The reality of it is, if you put emotions aside of this, because I get it and I understand it and I know it's deeply emotional, the reality is a vast majority of them do not do that. Okay. And what you have to understand is that the Republican Party is using you as a political pawn. I know you feel like they sympathize with your cause, but what they are going to do is they're going to use you as a political pawn and they're going to forget about you. Case in point. Look at what happened with Donald Trump and those families that lost their loved ones in Afghanistan because of the withdrawal. He brought them out to CPAC. He brought them out to the Arlington National Cemetery. I have not heard a peep about them since. That kid with cancer that they brought out to Donald Trump's speech, put him up, had everybody clapping. What has he done for him since? What has he done for him since? You still don't get to be racist because something bad happens to you. I got you. It doesn't matter where they're from. Slavery is wrong in all its forms. Illegal immigration is a problem. We do enforce our laws. Illegal immigration in and of itself is not inherently a problem, right? Those who are coming here are undocumented migrants, and they are, by all metrics, murder, no, but theft, robbery, trafficking. I'm no Republican. Well, I'm not saying you are, and if I did, I apologize. What I am saying is that Republicans are using you as a political pawn. And to be clear, the stats that I've seen, and I'll have to pull them up again, about 400,000 is what the best that Fox could come up with. Fox News, 400,000 crimes. And to be very clear, what that stat was 400,000 people that are not currently in ICE custody, criminals not in ICE custody. There's a flawed metric with that to begin with, because that's over the course of 20 years. 20 years. Okay. But let's just take the most generous number. 400,000 criminals in this country. And then if you look at the fact of whatever, and Republicans do this, they set themselves into a trap. Because then you'll ask them, well, how many people have come into the country illegally under Joe Biden? Oh, 10 million people, 10 million, 20 million people. And then next thing you know, you're like, well, you got a problem. Because you just said 400,000 people have committed crimes and they've come to this country. But yet you just said there's 10 million of them. Let me actually pull this up to give you the exact number. Let's see. What's that percentage come out to? Somebody's got some quick math on it, maybe. Let's see. 400,000 divided by 10. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's Less than 4%. It's about 4%. And that's over. And most of them will say 20 million. Okay. So you can reduce that by double. So it's pretty crazy. Beard here fell off. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, but yeah, 400,000 that they've caught. How many have they not caught? Well, first of all, under the law, I can break down that statistic. Okay. The statistic, by the way, was I believe it was one of the, somebody submitted it to a Congress member to say, hey, here's the stats. And if you look at those stats, first of all, they categorize it in a way that's not truly categorized. For example, I'll give you an example. They put it in murder. There is a difference, albeit maybe not large, but they said they put in that category just murder. But there's a difference between first degree, second degree, and third degree murder, right? A little bit of a difference. Same thing with, like, for example, like traffic offenses. Well, there's a whole host of traffic offenses. Secondly, it's important to note when they say not in ICE custody, what that just simply means is that they could be literally sitting in a prison in our country, but they're just not in ICE custody. And lastly, this was over like a 20-year span. So the 400,000 people that are not in ICE custody, I'd be willing to bet it is probably significantly less by a fraction of that. So technically under law, them coming here illegally makes them a criminal. Okay, by that same logic, which that crime there is literally nothing more than a civil offense. They have to pay a fine if no more than 6 months in jail. I want to put this in perspective. If you go over the speed limit in a certain manner, yeah, guess what? Are you a criminal? Because you went 20 over the speed limit. I'm sure most of everybody in here has. How you define criminal and how I define criminal are two completely different things. First of all, I would define a criminal as someone who's been convicted. I wouldn't consider a criminal being somebody who has allegedly committed a crime. That person is presumed innocent until what? Proven guilty in a court of law. And by the way, because I know people are going to say, well, what about Trump? What about Trump? Yeah, Trump was presumed innocent until he was, guess what? Proven guilty in a court of law 34 times over. He's a 34-time convicted felon. Exactly, Bar. It's because they're brown. I mean, this is the pretty logical explanation. Okay. So let's get back into this. And we got some videos here in a second. By the way, guys, we are up to 39 likes with 182 of you guys in here. Please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. We are up to 39, at least get to 50. All right. They're trying to do everything to stop him. Too strong. What's going on, buddy? They were trying to do everything to stop him. Yeah, I know. See, hey, Donald Trump, our Lord and Savior, thou shalt not have idols, guys. And by the way, these same people that are trying to deport these undocumented migrants would deport Jesus. Okay. So anyways, we have here Stephen Miller saying the Smithsonian is supposed to be a global symbol of American strength, culture, and prestige, a place for families and children to celebrate American history and greatness. Instead, the exhibits have been clearly taken over by left-wing activists who have used the Smithsonian as yet one platform to endlessly bash America and rewrite and erase our magnificent story. These activists have obscenely defaced this beloved institution. The Trump administration will proudly and diligently restore the patriotic glory of America and ensure the Smithsonian is a place that once more inspires love and devotion to this nation, especially amongst our youngest citizens. AKA, they're going to rewrite history. They're accusing the left of rewriting history, but they're going to go in and try to rewrite history. We also saw Oz and RFK Jr. go climbing together. They had a really lovely time. Look at this. I think, okay, the funny thing is watch how he struggles to get up here. And then watch how Dr. Oz just like seamlessly pulls himself up. Look how he's shaking and everything. And then watch, here goes Oz. Dr. Oz just like, let me just casually climb on up here. There you go. There we go. Not a problem. And it's just such an odd picture. Just such an odd, weird thing. By the way, RFK Jr. ended up rescinding research for mRNA stuff. So that happened. We also see this. DHS Secretary Kristen Noem is living for free in a military home typically reserved for the U.S. Coast Guard's top admiral. U.S. Coast Guard's top admiral. The highly unusual arrangement has raised concern with the agency and from some Democrats who describe it as a waste of military resources. Remember how they say that undocumented migrants are leeching off of the government? And now Kristen Noem is kind of leeching off the government. Kind of funny how that works out, isn't it? Also, I can't help but laugh at this. Vance went golfing because, he doesn't work. This is the funny thing about this administration. They love to, but by the way, welcome in, Sodi. I saw you come in. I want to give you some due credit for coming in under Twitch. Thank you for my Twitch viewers. So JD Vance missed multiple putts while golfing at Trump's golf on his luxury Scotland vacation. Yeah, he's taking multiple vacations this past year. This man can't hit a putt. Look, he's like, oh, darn, I missed it. Okay, let me just knock it over there. Oh, I missed it. Oh, darn. I'm going to get it this time. So super close. Oh, darn. Oh, there we go. I'll just take that. See, unlike, he didn't learn from Donald Trump that he could just simply pick up the ball and drop it in the hole. Duh. Donald Trump loves to cheat. So there's not a whole lot there. I'm not kind of torn. I kind of want to watch this one for you guys who have just tuned in to watch this Russia thing, but it's actually not super lengthy. Here, we'll watch this one. I think this one's got a little more meat to it. This was yesterday. Okay.
Thank you very much for being with us. It's a good time.
All right. I'll read some of this chat. Unethical farmers like Glasshouse that use illegal economic migrants as slaves are destroying our industry. Okay, Voltaire, the problem is, guess what, buddy? Just make them documented. Y'all keep using this loaded emotional language. Yo, thank you, Al Bundiaz. I appreciate it. Here's the thing, by the way. Okay. Make them a citizen. Then they can be beholden to employment law. And technically there is still some laws on the books about them hiring undocumented migrants, and those employers should absolutely be held accountable. Again, not a Trump supporter, but don't tell us about Trump golfing when Biden sat in a diaper on the beach as Afghanistan went to shit. Yeah, that's cute. Don't tell me then. Again, I love how you just, I'm not a Trump supporter. Yeah, this is how this works. Okay. People come in here. Yo, Health, Heath with $2. What about Russiagate investigation? Yeah. So the Russiagate investigation is actually hilarious. Thank you for the $2, by the way. The funny thing about this is the Russiagate. Ooh, camera's messing up. There we go. So the funny thing about the Russiagate investigation is that if you look at some of the documents that were released by Tulsi Gabbard, it actually said, and it was, I had to look at which one it was. It actually said that the Obama administration's emails were about what they should say to avoid having to influence the election. By the way, like if you go and look at those documents, it actually says that they did not want to interfere, but they had evidence to suggest that the Russians preferenced Trump in their campaigns. But I want to be very clear too. People forget during that same election, James Comey came out and announced an investigation into Hillary Clinton. People forget about that. And this is just a distraction campaign, by the way, that happened that Donald Trump wanted to do to try to divert attention away from the Epstein case. I'm trying to look out for any of your chats, Heath, but I appreciate the $2. Voltaire said there's 2.5 million. 2.5 million farm jobs in the United States versus 25 million illegal economic migrants. 25 million. Where do you get the 25 million from? Please let me know. Then what's going on with the grand jury looking at it in Southern New York District? What grand jury are you talking about? Oh goodness. I know what you're talking about. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Yeah, the same one that Emile Bove is sitting on, Trump's personal attorney. Which one is this one? I remember. Is it the Epstein stuff? Oh goodness. I remember Bondi announcing it, wasn't it? Oh goodness, where is it? It was a recent one I saw. I have to look at it. If you're talking about the grand jury testimony, that was determined that it wouldn't be released. Epstein files would collapse AIPAC overnight. Well, the problem is that I don't care who's on the Epstein files. Release the files. 10 million in 4 years under Biden. The previous record high was 500,000. So the 10 million. So even if I were to assume that were the case, that it was 10 million migrants. Okay. the idea is that if, and this is what a lot of the people were saying, is that, oh my gosh, look at, they're taking all of these jobs from Americans. Even if you were to get rid of all of those jobs, the amount of Americans that are looking for jobs are far greater than that of the jobs that these undocumented migrants are holding. And again, if these undocumented migrants are not committing any crimes, they're not a burden, so to speak, to our society, because they are putting in taxes not only at the federal level but at the state level via sales tax, via property tax. Yes, most people don't realize this, but undocumented migrants can get a home in the United States. Nothing's stopping them from doing that. So they're still doing it. There are only 2.5 million farm hands, including my job. Well, again, the problem is just make them a documented citizen. They're already deporting some of these people. They're already going to some of these farms and deporting them, and no Americans are going in and filling those jobs. No, supposedly Pam Bondi said there's a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. There's one, yes, Letitia James. Yeah. And that's hilarious to me because, again, the reason that they're looking at Letitia James is, again, just like they were going to do with Eric Adams. And keep in mind, again, the Southern District of New York right now has Emil Bove sitting on that panel. So people that say they are taking jobs are clueless. Exactly, Keith. They're 100% clueless. They don't understand it. Vince for Gitmo. It's funny you say beard. I'm trying to work on my beard game a little bit. I got to keep it tamed. You're incredibly uneducated. That is such an uneducated take. Okay.
This country, whether you have the hottest country anywhere in the world, I think you're hearing it from a lot of people, not just from me. We're doing very well in so many ways. And the gentleman on my right, we recruited him. We tried to get the best person. We got a man that you'll hear in a second who's done an amazing job with respect to social.
I'm going to try to skip through this as quick as I can.
And what that's doing is making the system from 4 million names
brought to seniors. But his effort on every month, we solved 9
secretaries of state.
2023 was one of the first Agenda 47.
Here we go.
Yep.
So I wanted to pull up the part where the press start asking questions. There, Brown, we can't make Brown. Right, exactly, Swamp. It's a housing problem, maybe. Well, I have to look at the housing again, but again, the problem isn't so much housing. The one thing about undocumented migrants is they tend to be multi-generational households. There's a uniquely American problem that what we tend to do is tend to want to move out on our own at 18. But most people that are from other countries, their culture there is for multi-generational households.
Any questions for Frank? How about questions for Frank?
For President, please. First and foremost, this was a major campaign promise that you had. 2023 was one of the first Agenda 47s that you put out. It was titled "We Must Protect Medicare and Social Security." Why was this important for both of you to get done, and given the fact that it will impact millions of lives?
Yeah, so the Social Security thing is really interesting too, because Donald Trump has actually yanked away all of Republicans who love their Social Security have yanked away Social Security and Medicare as well. And what we're seeing is I think I just read a report today that showed that there was going to be an $18,000 reduction for Social Security, by the way. Hey, guys, we have 52 likes right now, and we've got over 293 people in the chat. Please do me a huge solid favor. Just hit that like button. If we had every single one of you hit the like button, we'd have 293 chats. Not a problem.
Well, it was very important to me because I knew how Social Security, I've been hearing about it for years, long before I came to office, that it was really going to die very shortly. And I had to put somebody outstanding in, and I was talking to him on a business sense once, and I said, this guy's amazing. And he said, I'd love to help you with Social Security, because it's sort of what he does. He takes troubled entities and turns them around. And he did some of the biggest messes.
Apologize about that, guys. There was a double audio that I just caught was going on.
In the world, and Social Security in a certain way, I guess, you reported it all the time. In 4 or 5 years, it's going to go bust, but not anymore. It's not. And he's got it turned around so well. The proclamation helps. All of the things we've done help. And he's finding such tremendous fraud where we have illegal aliens. We have people that don't even exist on Social Security.
Yeah, so the people that don't exist on Social Security is not totally correct. These are actually Social Security rolls, and what this means is that there are people who have passed away, but because they have not been able to purge them from the rolls, they are still on Social Security. It's not that, again, this is Donald Trump trying to perpetuate this falsehood that undocumented migrants are coming here and just stealing everybody's Social Security. Again, what they're doing here is trying to paint undocumented migrants as inherent criminals. We saw this, by the way, that happened with Tom Homan, right? Tom Homan looks at every undocumented migrant as the same criminal. It does not matter the crime that was committed, whether it's crossing the border or somebody who ended up, I say unalive, understand that's a TikTok term because I'm chronically on TikTok. Okay. They look at it the same way. And this is all Donald Trump is trying to do, is trying to make it out and other a group of people.
Yeah, they don't exist. And what it does, it makes it totally secure and powerful for the people that are on it and need it. And we're very proud of the job he's done. One of the best.
It's funny to me because the same person, Lesko, saying, STFU, dude, quit listening to Nancy and Crocker, which is Crockett, not Crocker. Nice. See how you did that. You said Nancy, but then for the African-American woman, you said Crocker instead of Crockett. Cute. It's interesting you say it because all MAGA does is listen to Donald Trump. That's it. In fact, the entire Republican Party has conceded to Donald Trump and have said whatever Donald Trump says, we will do. He tells us to jump 10 feet, we'll jump 10 feet. So it's funny you mentioned that. And by the way, all of the stuff I've gotten, I compile for myself, and I form comprehensive thoughts. I form my own opinions. I actually would encourage all of my viewers and listeners to go out there and also do the same thing. Go out there and gather your own facts. Don't rely on just my word. Go out there and see other people's as well.
Kara Castro from Lindell TV. How are you today, sir? Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren continue to peddle the lie and the claim that you're trying to cut Social Security, despite your repeated promises to protect it.
And listen to this reporter here. Listen to this reporter.
TV. How are you today, sir? Democrats.
Who is she with?
The job he's done. One of the best.
Kara Castro from Lindell TV. How are you today, sir?
Lindell TV. Oh boy. Oh boy. Do I want to see this? The Mike Lindell show. The Mike Lindell show. Oh my God. They're in this press pool? Holy cow. This is Mike Lindell's TV show reporter asking this question. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Wow. I'm baffled. So listen to how she frames this.
Sir, Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren continue to peddle the lie and the claim that you're trying to cut Social Security, despite your repeated promises to protect it. Why do you think they keep pushing this misinformation and literally terrorizing the elderly in America that sadly keep watching the very misleading?
What? This is not what press is. This is pure propaganda news. This is pure propaganda. No, Karen, you're exactly right, because he put Benny Johnson ended up showing up at the Caroline Leavitt press conference. Al Bundy pillow flicks. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's wild. I did not know there was a Lindell TV. But yeah, somehow Mike Lindell got this. Yo, we're at 500 viewers. Guys, do me a huge solid. If you're new to the show, 500 viewers. We're peaking max. Please do me a solid. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. We go live Wednesdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I bring every bit of news to you guys and try to provide as much context as I can in the best, simplest way I possibly can. Okay. But guys, let's do that. We let's get to 100, man. There's a lot of y'all in here. Good job. That's crazy. All right, let's continue.
I love your question. I should have called you almost first, but I love his questions also, always. But it's such a good question. It's so vicious what they do. Elizabeth Warren said she was an Indian. We call her Pocahontas. She's a liar. She lied her whole career.
Mind you, this is coming from the liar in chief, the one who has literally lied numerous times. It's insane to me.
Based on the fact that she was an Indian, she was able to get into certain colleges, get certain jobs, get into...
Leah loves you said gay rights, women's rights. Absolutely. I'm all for it, Leah. I hope I said Leah. I might've said Leah. The thing about it is human rights have to do with politics. Absolutely. Yeah. Human rights absolutely does. What are your views on women and gay rights? Yeah, that's a good question, Dan. All you lefties know is lies. Of course, the maggots are in here defending Trump. Yeah, exactly, Kevin. Good to know. See you Lindell shows on. Oh, and I love winning every day. Yeah, the winning. The MAGA bots are hilarious sometimes.
Certain universities to work there. She's a liar and a mean person. She's a nut job. I watched.
It's everything he's saying could be said about him. That's the hilarious thing about this entire thing.
The other night, she's all hopped up endorsing a communist in New York City, and she was all excited and jumping up and down. She's got to take a drug test. She really does. She's got to take a drug test. There's no way somebody can act that way and be normal. What she's done to her.
How can this guy? This is a hilarious thing. Is Donald Trump puts some of these people in like very precarious positions where they're like, and y'all I don't know if y'all can see this. This guy's face perfectly paused because I'm pretty certain this is how he's feeling internally, but he can't say it out loud.
Financial institutions, he destroys people. Do you know that you had a lot of great banks in the Midwest and banks that loaned to farmers and others, and they went out of business? You put them out of business. Stone.
Yeah, Dan, you're correct. Yvonne, incorrect. He didn't even get half of voting Americans. Yeah, this is the problem too, is that like those who voted, I think there's like what, I'm not sure. What's the total voting population? 200 million? Things like that. Total voting population in US. Let's see. I'll have to look at it. I think it was like 200 million, but Donald Trump barely got like 40 to 70 million. What's your opinion on abortions? Thanks for answering. My opinion on abortions and stuff. So I am a liberal. My view on it is that I think the Roe v. Wade framework is something that should have stayed in place. I'm somebody that looks at it from a legalistic lens of view. I think there is a way that we have to understand that there are multiple people with multiple backgrounds, and we cannot use somebody's religious views to impose on everybody in a society. And so that is why I'm for the Roe v. Wade framework. I think it was a totally understandable framework. I think there are certain extenuating circumstances past that absolutely should be considered as well. And there has to be an understanding that there is a chilling effect when that takes place. When you put a complete ban on something, there's a chilling effect. We're seeing this play out, by the way, in immigration. Immigration, we're starting to see a chilling effect, right? Because Donald Trump's going into all these immigration centers, or to all these justice centers, arresting undocumented migrants. He's going into workplaces, arresting undocumented migrants. He's going into schools. That happened, by the way. So what that does is it deters people from going to those particular individual places, just as a heads up. Not in the Constitution. Okay, that's great. Liberals have no respect for people or human life. I don't want to hear that because Donald Trump doesn't. Donald Trump doesn't have respect for people or human life. He respects himself, and that's it. Who cares what you think? Well, you're in here. It's funny. Who cares what you think? You do. You just came in here and commented. Ice, baby. Yeah, that's great. It's funny to me to see like all the inhumane. And I know that they're like, this is the whole idea behind MAGA right now is they want to own the libs, and they're making all these like little quips and quivers and stuff. It's really hilarious. At the end of the day, they have no facts to back up their argument, which is why they're coming in here and making these arguments. They're really terrible arguments, quite frankly, and stuff that I would only expect my child to make, honestly. Putin is cool. Zelensky. Okay, that's cool.
Cold, mean. Banks that were open 150 years, family banks that supplied the farmers and manufacturers and others, and she put them out of business. She's a mean, horrible human being. Bernie Sanders is Bernie Sanders. I don't mind him so much. He's just a liberal guy, very liberal guy. He's a wacky guy. He's still sharp. I got to tell you, he's 86 or 87 or something. He's still sharp. You compare that to Joe Biden.
You just hate Trump. You know what? I don't know if I would say hate. Hate is a very, very, very strong word. I definitely dislike Donald Trump and his policies for sure. I think when we look at Donald Trump and what he has done to this country, he's absolutely tore this country apart. And I think when we look at the fact that Donald Trump, his disapproval is absolutely declining. I think he is a uniquely bad individual.
Biden, it's, sort of what happened. So I don't mind Bernie Sanders. With him, you know what you're getting. You're getting a guy, he's a nasty guy. But your
title backfired. How did it do? Talks did collapse to Putin, unless there's something new that just broke.
Somebody that I don't know if I call it a fastball, but he's able to throw the ball pretty well. He's okay. I watched him the other day. He was totally on the opposite side of things. I will say this: the biggest issue right now, and an issue that's really taken hold, is crime. Stopping crime in the cities, and the Democrats are fighting the stopping of crime. So I think that's like men playing in women's sports is okay, or transgender for everybody okay. But this is a bigger issue. This
is the funny thing too, is he's talking about this transgender and sports thing. It's a very, 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 very small issue that doesn't affect the vast majority of the population, but it's a very good talking point in his book to rile up his base. But again, it's just showing his bigotry, right? It's like, oh, you just hate Trump. You just hate Biden. This is the funny thing about it. It's like, you'll just hate Trump. It's such a low argument. What did it say? Your title backfired. You must have missed the presser. I didn't miss the presser, Michael. There was no agreement. There was no deal, and talks collapsed. Yo, Matthew, thank you for that subscription. I appreciate it, buddy.
This is the biggest of all issues. Crime is rampant in D.C. It's rampant in our generally blue-run cities, and they've got to do something about it.
Is that why iPhone is coming to the United States? Is that why Japan is investing? Okay, so let's address this, break this down, Lonnie, by the way. Apple is alleging that they're going to invest in the United States. But the problem is Apple made that promise back when Biden was in office. Secondly, the $550 billion in the United States is not coming from Japan, but individual investors. And even then, it's going to go into an investment fund that will be divvied up according to Donald Trump if he even uses it. It's not even really, and by the way, it's not binding, meaning Japan isn't forced to go in and do that. That, just to be clear. So every little bit of your premise is incorrect. Talks Collapse says he's a keyboard warrior who doesn't have a clue what really went on. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I wasn't in the room where it happened, so neither do you, right? By that own logic, it's a silly logic fallacy. Sorry, maggots. Individual rich investors from Japan. Right. And this is the thing too, right? Is that like the idea is that it's going to come from Japan. It's not going to come from Japan. Not Japan itself, at least. Not the Japanese government. And to be clear, too, Donald Trump also made the argument that by Japan agreed to import more U.S. car manufacturers. But the problem with that is that U.S. car manufacturers cannot make vehicles that are small enough for Japan. The Japanese market prefers smaller vehicles. We don't produce smaller vehicles here in the United States. And to be very clear, we don't even produce 100% made in America vehicles. We produce things in an assembly line. Apple CEO was there at the announcement. He made no reference to Biden. He could have. Is he sucking Trump's thumb? Absolutely, Jason. Yeah, that's what you're close to realizing it. Yeah, that's exactly what a lot of these CEOs are doing. They realize that if they want to get in good favors and get those tax cuts, those favorite tax cuts given to the rich and the wealthy, yeah, they're not going to come out and say, yeah, F Donald Trump. They're not going to do that because they want those sweet tax cuts. Philadelphia for Trump. You guys know a lot about, yeah. There's a lot of Cheeto dust around a lot of MAGA's lips. The whole reason they won't import the Cybertruck is because of their front end. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Ruby. Interesting. One second, Trump didn't think or stop. Why is it you have never run for elected office? Okay, well, first of all, I'm in a very, 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 very red state, and I'm in a very red district. So there's very little chance of me running at all for public office.
Never going to win another election. And instead of calling me a dictator, they like to say Trump's a dictator. Trump's a dictator. Well, I had calls from many, many friends, including Democrats. I have a lot of Democrat friends, but they're normal people. And they were thanking me so much for what I'm doing in D.C. They feel so safe already. And you know, at the border, we had 0 people come in.
So move to a blue state. You enjoy red state benefits, you hypocrite. Yeah, it's really funny because I believe it's also red states that end up taking in more than they actually give back to the federal government.
And this is done by a liberal group. They're the people that do it. I have nothing to do with it. 0 people in 3 months. We had 0, 0, and 0 for 3 months. And last year we had millions of people pouring in from all countries, from jails, from drug addicts, gang members.
What tax cuts? What are you talking about? What tax cuts? You talking about the tax cuts to the wealthy? We can talk about the private plane deduction, I believe is what it was. We can talk about that one. We can talk about the fact that the richest under Donald Trump's tax plan saw a very, very large dollar value in their tax cuts. And also, it's usually the wealthy that can take advantage of most of those deductions, not so much the lower class. The best the lower class is going to get is maybe a child tax credit, if they're lucky.
Drug dealers by the thousands and thousands. 11,888 murderers, half of whom committed more than one murder. They flowed into our country, and for the last 3 months we had none. And I didn't remember when Joe Biden used to...
Hey guys, do me a favor. We're at 516 people in here. Thank you so much for all my viewers. Yo, do me a huge solid. If you have not already liked, subscribed, and hit that notification bell, let's make history. Okay? I want to try and push our voice out there. And the only way we can do that is if you guys do me a huge solid and hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. You guys are amazing. I appreciate every single one of you guys that are in here. We're not done yet. We're going to continue going, but I want to just take this moment to thank every single one of you guys who have supported this stream. We have hit 1 year, and you guys have shown out every single time. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell.
So always go, I need legislation. I had no legislation. I just said we're closing the borders, and the whole world understood it because they respect your country again. They really respect this country again. They didn't respect it. When he said it, it didn't mean anything.
Would you support a candidate that wanted to do away with owning private property? First of all, it's pretty easy. So where you're loading that question is to assume you're going to try to sit there and say that Kamala Harris possibly wanted to get rid of private property. I would love to see that quote if that's what you're going with this. No, I would not be in favor of somebody who's trying to get rid of owning private property. And it depends to what extent we're talking about private property, because, for example, right now they have eminent domain, which Republicans love to use for their fancy projects.
But now they know it meant a lot. And Mexico does what we tell them to do. And Canada.
The 7% approval rating nationwide is not because Democrats are uniquely hated. The Democrats in and of themselves do not like the Democratic Party because of the direction they're going. Democrats believe that the Democratic Party right now is totally just inept. Now, to be clear, this is a big contention right now in the left right now is whether or not the Democrats are doing nothing or are they doing something. But the reason why it's at 7% is because the perception is that Democrats are not doing enough.
It is what we tell them to do, because we had the two borders. We have the northern border, southern border, and they were both horrible. But now it's some people say it's a miracle. Well, what Frank has done with Social Security also is something very special. But what we're doing with crime, which will be your next question, I guess, that's because everyone's they're afraid. Half of the people here, maybe all of the people here, most of you live in D.C., you are petrified to go out, and you're liberal. And if you're liberal, you're going to have to change. You're Democrats. You're going to have to change your ways. So we will have crime under control very shortly in D.C., but they're record numbers. And sadly, what I guess the mayor did, but whoever it was, they asked the numbers to be fudged so that it would show less crime than the fact. The fact is, it's worse than it's ever been. And we will have it just like we did at the border, where with borders are totally in great shape right now, the best ever, record-setting shape.
Yeah, so let's be very clear. What's going on right now with Donald Trump on this D.C. thing, we've already kind of explained it, but I want to explain to all 500 viewers that are here now. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you for the subscriptions. What is going on right now in D.C. is a plan to try to enforce immigration policy. I laid this out earlier, and I'm going to lay this out really quickly for all of you other guys who just came in. What Donald Trump is doing is that he's putting in place these National Guard into these Democrat-run cities, namely cities that have sanctuary city policies in place. Chicago, L.A., Baltimore, DC, New York. He's putting them in place there to pressure the government to rescind their sanctuary city policies. Then when they do that and they start cooperating with federal enforcement and they allow the National Guard to stay on their streets, they will then set up checkpoints to try to net a larger bit of undocumented migrants. This has nothing to do with crime and has everything to do with them trying to pressure and push the hand of these Democrat-run cities. That's exactly what this is.
We'll have the crime situation solved in D.C. very soon. And we're also going to beautify the city. We have a beautiful city, but you can't have graffiti, and you can't have roads with potholes, and you can't have the medians, the dividers in the roads falling down on the street. We're going to be beautifying the city, making it really beautiful. We're going to be getting the criminals the hell out of here. We don't want the criminals in Washington, D.C.
Mr. President, one on your Putin meeting and then one on D.C. crime. Are you prepared to offer Vladimir
I don't think you've been in DC. It's really bad. Okay, I don't think you have been or living in reality, because even the Donald Trump administration in and of themselves has already admitted that crime is down in DC. They're literally, Kash Patel came up when Donald Trump announced the National Guard going on DC streets. That same day, Kash Patel said crime is down. Caroline Leavitt said crime is down. Crime is down in DC. This is not about crime. This is about Donald Trump trying to strong arm local governments to give in to their sanctuary city policies and give them up.
Minerals to incentivize him to end the war.
We're going to see what happens with our meeting. We have a big meeting, and it's going to be...
The rich generate all the jobs in America, so we should capitulate to the rich. That's it, right? The trickle down economics that never seems to work. The same kind of economic theory that ends up being when there's high inflation and companies love to sit there, increase their prices, and they will never decrease those prices because they love their profits. In fact, what we're seeing is that companies are recording record profits even though they are incurring tariffs. What does that mean? It means companies love to keep their profits high. Why? Because companies have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to have record profits.
I think very important for Russia, and it's going to be very important for us, and important for us only that we're going to save a lot of lives. Look, we have, we're not paying any money, as you know, to Ukraine. We're supplying equipment. We're being paid 100% plus for that equipment by NATO. And I got NATO up from 2% to 5% of GDP. They now have billions of dollars. NATO is a very rich group of countries.
All right, guys, listen, we are at 9 o'clock. That is usually my cutoff, and we did not hit our super chat goal. But listen, we reached 700 viewers. That is insane. So thank you so much, guys. I'm going to be going. But listen, if you have not hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, please do so. I am so happy for all of you guys that have tuned in. It has been an awesome show. I hope that I've entertained most of you guys as best as I can. I know most of you guys are in here are trolling, and that's okay. You guys have contributed to the algorithm in some manner or another. We have reached over 100 likes. It is because of you guys that we are successful, not because of me. You guys come in here. You guys like the stream. We reached 100 likes. So I appreciate every single one of you guys. And remember, next week I will be traveling, but don't worry. We are going to try to take this on the road. I will try to do my best to stream from the hotel room. Okay. But I will let you guys know about that. It'll still be Wednesday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are not going anywhere on that. Or actually, it'll be 7:30. It might change a little bit. I'll let you guys know. But if you subscribe, I'll put a post out there and let you guys know. But anyways, guys, still never too late. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. I will see you guys next Wednesday. You can also follow me on TikTok. I post there nearly daily. I'm also on X pretty religiously. Other than that, guys, you have a great weekend. Please don't forget that Donald Trump is uniquely inept. Okay? You'll have a great weekend and y'all stay frosty.